What's up guys, it's Antoine here, and today we're going to talk about what everybody wants to know, how to buy your first rental property. Now when it comes to buying rental properties, there are a ton of questions. How much money do you need? Where do you buy them? How do you build a team? What do the numbers look like? What's a good deal? What's a bad deal? And in this video, we're going to answer all of those questions. But before we get into it, please like and subscribe down below so you can get notified when I post new content every single week to help you grow your real estate investment portfolio. This video is here to be your step-by-step guide to help you buy your first rental property. From there, it's up to you to do your own research, choose a market, build the team, and find the right property for you. So let's jump in. So you basically have two options when it comes to buying rental properties. Option one is to buy something turnkey. Option two is to do it yourself. If you don't know what turnkey is, turnkey rental properties already have tenants in place, property management in place. They're typically fully renovated. Take no work, take no time. You can go to martelturnkey.com and buy a house tomorrow. The rest of this video is going to be for option number two for those of you that want to go and do it yourself. Step one, down payment. The first step to this entire process is having the cash available to buy these properties. This is what's called the down payment. Now, when you buy rental properties, the banks will require you to put 20 to 30% down. The typical houses that we buy and sell are in the $100,000 to $150,000 range. So that means if you buy a house for $100,000, you'll have to put down 20 to 30% or $20,000 to $30,000 plus a couple $1,000s in closing costs. Typically, closing costs are right around 3%. So if you buy a house for $100,000, it'll be $3,000 in closing costs. How much money you have saved up determines how many properties you can buy. So if you have $60,000 in the bank, you can probably afford to buy 2 rental properties. If you have $30,000 in the bank, you can probably afford to buy 1 rental property. And if you don't have $20,000 to $30,000 saved up, don't worry. In other videos, I'll be talking about FHA loans, VA loans, where you can buy properties with $10,000 to $15,000. Something else you can look into is incentives for buying houses in a particular city or county. Sometimes cities and counties give incentives for people to buy real estate. These could be things like covering closing costs or covering property taxes for a certain amount of time. However, to take advantage of some of these incentives, you probably have to live in the property, so make sure you do your research. Step two, building credit. So now that we talked about the down payment and how much money you need to actually buy these rental properties, the second step is about credit. Now, if you have a bad credit score in the 500 or 600 range, you probably won't be able to go and buy a rental property right now. Typically, lenders like to see a credit score over 680 in order to give you financing and allow you to buy a rental property. A good target to hit if you're working on your credit is 740. At a 740 credit score or higher, you're going to get the best prices, best terms on these loans. So again, the lowest credit score that these banks will require is 680. As your credit score goes up from 700 to 740 to 800, the interest rate that you pay begins to go down. So the better and higher your credit score is, the less risky you are to the lender. The more risky you are, the higher your interest rate will be, the more money you'll be required to put down, and they can also increase your points and fees to even get the loan. So you should be highly incentivized to increase your credit, get the best credit score you possibly can. It's going to give you the best terms and the best interest rate to buy these rental properties. So one tool that I use to check my credit is creditkarma.com. You can go there to check your credit to see what kind of score range you're at currently and see ways that you can improve your credit score to get a better loan. And it's totally free. Step three is to choose the city. Now, once you have your credit score over 680 and you have enough cash in the bank to buy your first rental property, step number 3 is to choose which city you should invest in. So for most of you watching this, you probably live in a place that doesn't make sense to invest in locally. That's why a lot of people started to invest out of state, across the country. Like myself, I live in Los Angeles and home prices here are $1 million, $2 million. It doesn't make sense to invest locally. Therefore, many of you will have to invest across the country, and because of that, you'll have to do research about which market is the best to invest in for rental properties. Personally, I invest in cities like Memphis, Cleveland, St. Louis, Detroit, and many other Midwestern cities. One mistake that a lot of investors make when choosing a city is they go on Google and they type the top 10 best cities to invest in real estate. I think that this is a mistake, and you should be doing your own research to choose the best markets for you. A lot of these cities on this top 10 list are already overpriced and they already had huge population growth. When I choose a city, when I go into a city, I want to find a city that nobody is talking about so that I can get in early, buy stuff dirt cheap, let it rise over the next 5 to 10 years, and then eventually refinance that property or sell it. I made another video where I talk about my top 10 cities to invest in for 2022, so go check out my channel to see that video. I'd recommend going to a website, investor-list.com. It has all the data that I look for when choosing a rental property market out of state. So some of the things that I look for when investing in a new market is first of all, rent to value ratios. So let's say we're looking at Memphis, Tennessee, where the average home price is $150,000 and the average rents are $1,500 a month. That gives you a 1.0 rent to value ratio, which means that market is a great place to invest in because the cash flow will be fantastic. Now on that website, investor-list.com, you can filter out certain cities that have high rent to value ratios and choose the top 10 to 20 cities that have the highest rent to value ratios. Then you can do further research on those markets. Some of the things that I look for after that are population growth, job growth, who are the major employers, do I like the major employers, do I think that those major employers will be around for the next 10 or 20 years. For example, Memphis, Tennessee has the second largest cargo airport in the world, FedEx headquarters, Nike distribution facilities, and I believe that these companies will be around for the next 10 to 20 years. Some fears that people have about investing across the country is that they're never going to be able to see the property, touch the property, they don't know anybody in that market. But to ease your mind, I want you to know that you have a built-in team already in any market across the country. What I mean by that is when you're buying one of these rental properties, there are going to be a ton of people walking that property for you. For example, let's say you buy a house in Detroit, Michigan. You're going to have a lender, an inspector, and a property management company all walk that property for you. While it may seem super weird to buy rental properties across the country in cities you've never been in where you don't know anybody on the ground, I assure you that is completely normal, and we're helping people do it 20 to 30 times every single month. Due to the increase in technology over the last 10 years, it's very, very common for people to start buying rental properties out of the state that they live in. Take the hedge funds, for example, and they're buying houses across the country in tons of markets across the Midwest simultaneously. And if you live in a very expensive market that doesn't make sense financially to invest in for cash flow, you should be looking out of state and choosing a market to invest in out of your home state. Now, once you've chosen the city you want to invest in and you found a place that nobody's talking about, that you can go and buy properties that cash flow fantastically, now you have to figure out which neighborhoods you want to invest in. A lot of people online will talk about investing in great schools or investing close to downtown, but I would recommend investing in neighborhoods that are close to jobs, that have low crime, that provide great cash flow. Everybody, when they talk about real estate, talks about location, 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 and I do agree with that to an extent. Typically, my properties are located 20 to 30 minutes outside of downtown in nice B and C class suburbs, close to jobs that have low crime. And location is so important when it comes to real estate because when you buy that property, you can't move it anymore. So make sure when you're buying a property or looking at a property to invest in, you go on Google Street View. Once you're on Google Street View, look at the property, the neighbor's property, look across the street, and then also zoom out a little bit on the map. Make sure your property is not on a busy street. Make sure it's not close to a freeway or a jail or anything that could affect the property or the rent. Step 4 is finding your team. So after you found the city that you want to invest in, the next step is building that team on the ground to help make your real estate deal successful. There's a couple of people that you want on your real estate team if you're doing rental properties. The first and foremost, most important person is a property management company. The second is going to be a realtor, and the third will be a property inspector. So the way that I find these property management companies is I take the city I want to invest in, put it in Google. So let's say Memphis, Tennessee property management companies. I take the first 10 to 20 people that are on that list and I just start cold calling every single property management company. I call them, tell them who I am, what I'm trying to accomplish, and I explain to them what my goals are of investing in Memphis, Tennessee, and see if they're willing and able to help me. Something else you can do if you know people that are already investing in Memphis, Tennessee, or a different market, you can start reaching out to them, ask them if they have any property management companies that they can recommend that you use in that market. Realtors can also be a great resource to find great property management companies in a certain market. So what you can start doing is going on Zillow, typing in a favorite zip code that you found in a certain market, and look up the biggest and best realtors in that zip code who have the most amount of listings. You can start cold calling those realtors, tell them who you are, what you're trying to do, what you're looking for, and see if they have any property management companies that you can recommend. So when looking at a property management company, you want to find somebody that has a ton of experience. You don't want to find a property management company that only has 10 or 50 houses under management. You want to find a property management company that has been around a long time and hopefully they have 200 or more doors under management currently. The most important thing about a property management company is making sure that they use a property management portal. Some companies still run off Excel and paper. You don't want to be using these mom and pop property management companies. You want to find a professional management company that uses some sort of software. So something to watch out for when dealing with property management companies in a new market is you want to find a property management company that has great communication and they are also hiring as much as they possibly can. What I mean by that is a lot of property management companies get pinched because they start bringing in more and more houses to manage, but they don't take that cash flow that they're making from managing these properties and hiring more people on their staff. One little rule of thumb about property management companies is that for every property manager that property management company has, that person should be managing a portfolio of 50 to 100 homes. So if a property management company is managing 500 doors, they should have 5 full-time property management staff to manage that current inventory. If they don't have enough property managers to manage their current portfolio, things may start slipping through the cracks. So realtors are going to be a key to helping you find real estate deals on the MLS. The MLS stands for the Multiple Listing Service, and this is where all realtors across the country use this platform to post properties up for sale and for rent. So the benefit of using a realtor is that they have direct access to the MLS, so they can pull deals before they're even on Zillow or Redfin if they're acting very, very quickly. So you want to find realtors that are investment-friendly realtors. What that means is you want to find a real estate agent that has experience dealing with rental properties. Hopefully you find a real estate agent that has already helped other clients buy cash flowing rental properties in that market. The best trait of any realtor that's going to be extremely helpful to you is somebody that acts quick and they're very responsive. When you first start reaching out to realtors and if they don't pick up the phone, they're hard to get in contact with, they hardly reply to their emails, it takes a couple of days for them to get back to you, that's not somebody you want to work with. You want to find a realtor that is very quick and very aggressive. You want to find somebody that is going to have fantastic communication because you are going to be investing across the country and out of state. I also leverage property management companies and realtors to double check the numbers when I'm underwriting deals in a certain market. What I mean by that is, let's say we find a house on Zillow for $100,000 and we go on rentometer.com, and you can use that website to find out what market rents may be for that property. You can take that number and take that property, send it to the realtor, send it to the property management company, and ask them what their thoughts are. Especially the property management company, I always include them in my emails when I'm underwriting deals to make sure that they double check the houses to make sure that they think that we can rent it out for the price that it's saying on Rent-A-Meter. Leverage these property management companies and realtors as much as you possibly can. Hopefully you find somebody who's lived in that market or grew up in that city and has lived there for 20, 30, 40 years. So they know the city, know the market like the back of their hand. Send them every single address that you're underwriting. They may know certain information that you can't see online about the street, the neighborhood, or what's right across the street. So ask them questions like, which neighborhoods are the best neighborhoods for cash flow? Where do you see a lot of investors buying or flipping houses, and all these kinds of things. Many of these people, especially if you have a realtor that's doing a lot of transaction volume in a certain market, they're going to know this. Remember that this real estate team that you're building on the ground is very incentivized of you having success. What I mean by that is the more properties you buy, the more success you have, the more money the property manager makes and the realtor. So this is really the core foundation of your team. The more deals you do, the more that they help you, the more money you all can make. Step 5 is finding a lender. The last and most important person of your team is going to be a lender, because there's no point of you analyzing deals or running numbers on deals if you're not even going to be able to get financing on that property. So conventional lenders is your traditional Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac financing. It's the same kind of financing when you go buy a house to live in, you go get a loan on that property. People typically refer to this as a conventional loan. So this, in terms of buying rental properties right now, you'll put 20% down, you'll pay 4.5% interest, a couple $1,000 in closing costs to be able to buy that property. But to get approved with them, you have to have 2 years of W-2 or 1099 income, credit score over 680, and then 20 to 30% down payment ready and available. The unconventional lenders is for those of you that don't have a good credit score. Maybe you have your own business, you don't have W-2 or 1099 income for the last couple of years. These unconventional lenders, or sometimes called asset-based lenders, lend more on the asset than on you as the person. For this, they're going to ask for more money down, typically 25 to 30%. The interest rates for these unconventional lenders are also way more expensive. Conventionally, you'll be at 4.5. Unconventionally, you'll be at 5.5 or 6.5. And there will also be a ton of closing costs when you go down this path. Another requirement of conventional lenders is a debt to income ratio. So what this means is the conventional lender will look at your entire income and look at all the debt you have. So your car payment, your rent, or your mortgage, all that kind of stuff, and they'll come up with a ratio to see if you can even afford to add on this additional debt that the rental property is going to add. So before you apply for one of these conventional loans, if you have any additional cash, and there's some quick and easy things you can pay off, like credit cards, student loans, anything like that, take some of that cash and use it to pay down some of this debt so that when you apply for the loan, your debt to income ratio is fantastic. So if you're looking for a conventional lender, you can go online. There's tons of conventional lenders out there. Just look rental property financing. When you're on the phone with them, ask them if they do any kind of conventional financing. And I would just start cold calling companies out there that you find on Google that may lend in the market you're trying to buy houses in. Unconventionally, there's two companies that I would recommend that I've used a ton. The first one is Kiavi. Kiavi has a great online portal. You can go in, plug in some certain information, your credit score, your real estate experience, how much cash you have, and they will literally pre-approve you in literally 5 to 10 minutes. Another company I'd recommend is Lima One. Lima One is a hard money lender, but they also have some rental property products out there. Another great way to find some conventional and unconventional lenders is talking to your boots on the ground. So call your property manager, your realtor, ask them if they have any lenders or brokers that they love working with. Another term for unconventional financing is also considered hard money. But hard money is a word used more for fix and flippers that are getting debt at 12% interest and 3 points. But some of these hard money lenders, due to the increase in volume of single family home rental properties, have started to offer long-term rental property product. Now, when you start going down this rabbit hole of finding the right lender, don't be discouraged. When I first started out, I was in a very unique situation because I was still a college student, so getting financing was very difficult. I probably talked to 100 different lenders. I even made a spreadsheet of all of those lenders I was talking to find the right lender for me when I first started. Once you get approved with a lender, now it's time for my favorite part, to start analyzing deals and looking at properties. Step 6 is looking at properties and look at a ton of them. There's going to be a couple of ways that you can find deals. I use Zillow, Redfin, and also a local realtor to help me find deals in my new market. Since you already know which neighborhoods you want to invest in, what I would recommend is going on Zillow and Redfin and setting up searches on the map. You can actually open up the map and draw the certain neighborhoods that you'd like to invest in that was recommended by the property manager and the realtor. Once you create that map and draw a little area that you like, you can have it send you daily emails of new listings that come up in that neighborhood that fit your filters. So I would highly recommend you looking at deals every single day. When I first started, it took me 2 years to do my first deal. So imagine how many deals I looked at, how many deals I analyzed before I ever bought that first house. When I first found that deal that made financial sense, that's when I felt comfortable to pull the trigger. So you want to analyze as many properties as you possibly can, and you want to get these properties from many different sources. So Zillow, Redfin, the realtor, wholesalers, and the property management company. The more properties you analyze every single day, the higher chances are of finding a deal. Typically, when we make offers on houses across the country, we submit 5 offers to get 1 house under contract. When looking at all these properties every single day, you're going to want to stay focused on properties that already look renovated. So you don't want to get into your first deal and spend $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on a renovation. You should start off your first couple of deals with something very, very light, $5,000 or less in terms of renovation. It also is important to look at properties that are currently on the market for rent. What does the kitchen look like? What do the bathrooms look like? What does the exterior of the property look like? So now when you're looking at properties to buy, you can look at the kitchen and bathroom and exterior and see, hey, does it need any work done to it, or is it good to go and rent out right now? After you've looked at a couple dozen properties, you'll start to see what the trends are in that neighborhood. So you'll start to see the finish quality, the square footage, and all of these things that are renting out for the market rents. That'll make your life a lot easier when you start looking for deals because you'll know which properties need work, which ones are ready to go, and which ones you can just buy and rent out right away. Which brings us to step 7, which is analyzing deals and making sure they cash flow. And the most important part of analyzing deals is a good spreadsheet. So down below in the description, I put a link for you to fill out a quick little form to get access to my spreadsheet that I use to analyze rental properties on the MLS. So whether you're using my spreadsheet or using somebody else's, or you even build your own, you want to make sure you incorporate the rent, taxes, insurance, property management, and debt service. All of these numbers will give you your net cash flow per month, which is the most important part of this process. As you're analyzing your deal, don't forget about property taxes. One thing to note is that every city and every county in the entire US has a different philosophy on property taxes. So some cities like Detroit, when you buy a house, taxes are reassessed every 12 months. In cities like Cleveland and Memphis, taxes are reassessed every 3 to 4 years. In places like California, as soon as you buy a property, taxes are reassessed. So make sure when you're analyzing properties, you talk to your property manager and the realtor. They'll be able to give you feedback as to what the current taxes are and how much they think they will go up in the future. Property taxes are one of the things that I see people mess up the most when they're first getting started. Sometimes they'll take the tax rate and multiply it by the purchase price of the property they're buying. But in some markets, this is completely wrong. That's why I always recommend just taking the number that you see online, sending it to the realtor, sending it to the property management company, and getting their thoughts. In terms of property insurance, you should find a nationwide property insurance company that can insure your entire portfolio. There's a quick little formula that I use to calculate what the annual insurance premium will be for properties. So a $100,000 property multiplied by 0.0065 gives you $650 per year for insurance. Now, obviously, this number can change depending on the insurance provider, but again, this is just a quick rule of thumb when you're analyzing deals on the first go around. Something else to watch out for is being in flood zones or other high insurance areas like Florida, where there's a ton of hurricanes and other natural disasters. So again, just take this annual insurance premium, send it to the realtor or property manager, have them double check, and then if you want a real hard check, send it to the insurance company and have them give you a number back. And now on to rent. So in order to estimate market rent for a property, I use a website called renttometer.com. What this website allows you to do is take in a property address, plug it into the website, put that it has 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, and click search. Then it's going to tell you what the market rents have been in that neighborhood for similar properties of that size over the last 6 to 12 months. Now, obviously, when you're looking at these properties, you have to make sure that they are market rent ready and make sure that they match the other properties in the area that are out for rent. So for example, if you take a property that has granite countertops and stainless steel appliances and you plug it into Rent-A-Meter, it might give you a number of $1,300. But if you take the neighbor's property with green carpets, doesn't have stainless steel appliances, Formica countertops, that same property won't rent out for $1,300 a month. That property will rent out for $1,000 or $900 a month. So just be very careful when using Rent-A-Meter because you can't plug in the quality of the properties. So we use Rent-A-Meter for almost every single deal that we analyze when we're running numbers. It's a great starting point number that you can then take and send it to the realtor and to the property manager for them to double check. The most important double check is going to be the property management company. So send them the house you're looking to buy, send them what you found on Rent-A-Meter, and see what they think. When a lot of people first start analyzing deals, they forget to include property management expenses. Property management companies are literally the key to having a successful portfolio across the country, so you will have to pay for them, and I wouldn't recommend managing these properties on your own. Property management companies charge 7 to 10% of gross collected rents every single month. So let's say a property management company charges you 10%. The rent for that property is $1,000 a month, so the property management company makes $100 a month every single month, so long as that tenant pays. When the tenant doesn't pay rent, the property management company doesn't make any money. That's great for you because they're incentivized to keep the property occupied and keep the tenant paying. Some other expenses with property management companies is they charge what's called a lease-up fee. So if you buy a house that's vacant for $100,000 and you have them lease out that property, sometimes they'll charge you 50% to 100% of first month's rent as a leasing fee. Also, some other expenses with property management companies is that when the tenant turns over, they may charge you a renewal fee. It won't be very much money, maybe $100 or $200 for that tenant to renew their lease. If you do have any maintenance expenses, property management companies also typically charge an upcharge. So if the roof goes out and it costs $5,000, property management companies may charge you $500 to manage that repair. But believe me, having the property management company manage all of these things, the leasing, the move outs, the evictions, the maintenance requests, it's worth every single penny. When you're buying properties right off the MLS that aren't turnkey, you also probably want to include some expenses for capital expenditures and repairs and maintenance. So typically, investors hold back 5% for capital expenditures and another 5% for repairs and maintenance. Some people also include a buffer for vacancy expenses. So let's say you buy a property with a tenant on a 12-month lease. The tenant leaves in month 12, it takes a month to release that property, so there's a month when you're not really making much rental income. Capital expenditures are things like the roof, the HVAC, these are big ticket items that don't happen every single year, but every 5 to 10 years you may need to spend some money to fix these things. Repairs and maintenance are small little things that may happen throughout the year and maybe every single month. So things like the toilet breaking or the faucet leaking, these are some things that you might have to spend money on every single month. And most investors put in a buffer for CapEx at 5%, repairs and maintenance at 5%, and vacancy at 5%. So a lot of people have questions about this. Do they set up a separate bank account? Do they actually pull this money out of the property every single month? I recommend keeping everything in every single property in one central bank account, not having too many different bank accounts going on. The reason why is because as you start to grow your portfolio, you don't want to open a bank account for every single property you buy. Imagine when you have 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 houses, you're really going to have 30, 40 bank accounts and be managing all that movement of funds. It's way easier if you just have 1 or 2 central bank accounts that are for your rental properties. So now that you know all the different pieces to analyze a real estate deal, it's time to start analyzing deals like crazy. Step 8, the perfect first deal. Now that you know how to analyze deals, what is the perfect deal that you should be buying as your first one? Something that I've helped a lot of people do to get started is to buy their first house on Zillow and Redfin and find a house that already went through a huge renovation. Something that you can literally buy one day and rent it out the next day. If you can find something like that in one of the neighborhoods that you've pinpointed, that would be a perfect starter home and perfect first rental property. As your first property, I wouldn't recommend getting into something that needs any kind of renovation. Especially if you're investing out of state and trying to manage contractors, even if it's a $5,000 or $10,000 job, sometimes these things can take 1 to 2 months and it's really going to delay your process. Something else to keep in mind is that a lot of the lenders won't lend on properties that need significant renovations. Lenders don't like to take additional risk and they don't want contractors in these properties doing heavy renovations. Lenders would prefer to take no risk at all and just lend on properties that are already in good shape. So when you're looking and analyzing these deals, make sure the properties you're buying need $5,000 or less in work, hopefully no work at all, because the lenders will love it, your property manager will love it, and you'll love it too because you can close on that property and rent it out the next day. To really get started, you want to start off with something super simple to test out the property manager, the realtor, and the lender that you have. Once you go through a couple of properties, then you can start expanding your reach and start buying houses that need renovation. And maybe it's just a couple $1,000s of work, but still I would start off by buying something super easy and cookie cutter as your first deal. And even for these houses that you buy for $100,000, $150,000 that are completely renovated already, you really just buy them and rent them out, you can still find some pretty good returns. The returns that I would be looking for with these kinds of properties is anything from a cash on cash return of 10 to 20% and a cap rate of 7 to 10%. So while cap rate is the return you would make on a rental property if you were to buy it all cash, cash on cash return is the return you would make on a rental property if you were to get financing. Now, if you don't know how to calculate cap rate and cash on cash return, you have no idea what I'm talking about, go to the link in the description, fill out the little form to download my spreadsheet. You'll be able to look at the cap rate and the cash on cash return for every single property that you analyze. You don't need to go off market to find these kinds of deals. I still find a ton of these deals on Zillow and Redfin and through local realtors. They get sent to me every single day. If you're looking in the right market that has the right rent to value ratio and has a good amount of inventory, you'll be able to find these deals no problem. Step 9 is making offers and going under contract. Now that you know the exact kind of property you're looking for, it's time to start making offers. Take the spreadsheet that you downloaded, start analyzing deals and sending them to the realtor and property manager to get their feedback. If the property manager and the realtor both agree about the property, the location, the cash flow of the property, the market rents, if they agree on everything that you've analyzed, it's time to start writing up contracts and making offers. I'd recommend analyzing deals every single day and making offers as fast as you possibly can. With the way the real estate market is being super hot, the faster that you get your offer in, the better of a chance you have of getting your offer accepted. I definitely would not recommend making offers waiving your appraisal contingency. So because the real estate market is extremely hot, there are people making offers waiving their appraisal contingencies. What that means is if you're under contract for a house for $100,000 and the house appraises for $80,000, people are still moving forward and still buying that property, even though the lender is only going to lend on $80,000 versus $100,000. This causes the buyer to come up with an extra $20,000 out of their pocket. No matter how hot the market is, you should not be paying over the appraised value for these properties. So because you'll be submitting offers with a financing contingency, you might as well also include an inspection contingency. This will give you time once you're under contract on the property to send out a third-party inspector. The inspector will go through the property and see if they can find any short-term and long-term issues with that property. Then at least you know when you close on that property what some of the issues are with the home, and you can also, while you're under contract, start getting bids or quotes to fix some of the issues that came up on the inspection report. Again, hopefully the inspection report comes back extremely clean and nothing needs to be done, but you never know. That's why I always recommend including an inspection contingency when making offers. So once you're under contract on a property, I would recommend taking that contract and shopping it around with a couple of different lenders. So even though you may have made an offer on that property with a pre-approval letter from Kiavi, you can still move forward with a different bank after you are under contract. So once you're under contract on a property, the inspection is done and it comes back good, the appraisal comes back good, and the house appraises at value, you're ready to close on that first property. Typically, after you get the appraisal, you should be closing on the property within the next couple of weeks. Closings are all done through third-party escrow companies, and you'll actually be wiring your funds for closing to that title company. The title company will collect the funds from the lender and from yourself. They'll put all the math together, run all the numbers, and they'll send those funds to the seller, and then you will now be the new owner of that rental property. Step 10 is rent it out. So now that you've closed on your first rental property, you want to send all the information that you have about that rental property to the property management company. The property management company will get you set up with a portal in their system. Now, once you have access to this portal, you'll start talking to the property management company about what you want the property to rent out for, and if you need to take some professional photos to market the property for rent. The property management company will take those photos, post it all online, start sending people out to the property, and hopefully get a deposit within the first couple of weeks. I found that with my personal properties, the houses with professional photos rent out quicker and easier. I think that it's just way more eye-catching online on Zillow and Redfin if the property has professional photos taken of it. Comparatively, a lot of houses that you see on Zillow and Redfin in some of these neighborhoods in the Midwest look like they were taken from a potato. So once you have the photos back, your property manager should start marketing that property, and you can always go online and double check. Make sure that the property is showing up on Zillow and Redfin and many other websites out there where people can go and find homes for rent. Step 11 is to repeat this entire process and scale. Now's the part where it gets really fun. The first property is always the hardest one to close and normally takes the longest amount of time. That's because you're working with the lender for the first time, the realtor for the first time, and the property manager for the first time. So there will be a lot of bumps in the road with that first rental property, but it only gets easier after that. Because now you have the relationship with the realtor, property manager, lender, inspector, and all of these different people already know your process, what you're looking for. Something else I would recommend is start looking for properties around the house that you currently own. So if you bought a house last year for $100,000 and now a house comes up for $100,000 right next door, you should look at that property, make an offer on that property, and see if you can rent it out for the same amount of rent you currently are renting out your home. Being able to repeat this process over and over again is the key to creating wealth and creating passive income. Now, if you want to skip all of this BS and just buy houses that are already rented out, already renovated, property management in place, and you want to get connected to my entire team, go to martelturnkey.com, book a phone call with us, and we'll help you with every step of the process. This strategy that I've been telling you about is something that I've done personally as well. So if I can do it right out of college without ever having a full-time job or anything like that, you can do it too. Make sure to like and subscribe so I can teach you guys everything you need to know to have success in real estate investing. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next video.